Hey, what's up? This is Donald Tardy with Obituary, and you're listening to The Dan Chan Show.
Hey, Donald, how are you today in my home
Hey.
city of Barcelona?
Hey, Dan, how are you, bro? I'm doing very well.
And the weather's not as good as it should be here for you. I do apologize.
Yeah, you're right. I stepped off the bus, and it was raining, and which whatever. It's fine. We're pampered here on tour, either in a bus or in a venue, so we're good.
Nice, nice. Now, you're here to talk about the brand new album, Dying of Everything. You know, it's new to us, but old to you, as you've waited such a long time to get this out. It finally dropped on the 13th of January. How good was it to eventually get it out?
Yeah, it was agonizing, waiting, waiting with this record. But as painful as that was, sitting on it for nearly 2 years, it was clearly the smart decision, because now we're in Europe finally after 5 years or so, and the album dropped, and we were waiting for the European fans to get their hands on this and get their bodies in a venue to see Obituary live after so many years. So album's absolutely crushing when it comes to fans' reactions and the positive responses we got. So we're loving it.
And did you find during that 2 year period that you didn't listen to the album to keep it fresh for yourselves as well?
Well, good question. Because any band member, when you're excited about an album, you kind of overdo it at first, especially right when the mix is finished.
Yeah, of course.
Lord knows mixing it when, some band members cannot handle listening to the same song or the same part of a song 500 times in the hour. But, once it was done, I definitely was super proud and blasting it on every stereo that I can get my hands on. But then, yes, I had to tuck it away.
Yeah, of course.
hide it from myself for a little while, so it did feel fresh. But we could not be more pleased with the way this thing came out.
No, it's awesome. Now, I believe you have your own studio. How nice is it to have that and to take the pressure off? No financial pressures, no time pressures. Do you perform better in that environment?
Yeah, I mean, you speak to any musician, and the most important thing is being comfortable, being relaxed, and having the studio. It's just a luxury. It's one of those things where you don't have to be at a studio at a certain time. You don't have people waiting on you. You don't have people relying on you to get the song done. So taking that pressure away really just adds a luxury that then the musician can focus on the song and make sure that he's putting the parts putting the parts down in his mind onto tape and getting it done properly. So the luxury of having our own studio is definitely a plus for sure.
Now, do you keep everything set up at your brother's house, isn't it? John's house, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you drop in there to play when you feel like it, or is it not that kind of setup?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, it's a studio. It was designed for that. It stays set up. The Pro Tools rig is always set up. So he can't get rid of me. We purchased the house about 25 years ago together. And then, cool. Since then, of course, since then he's had children and family and all that. So I was booted, but
he's like, not again, not again, Donald, not again, man, get out.
But what's cool is, I'm only 15 minutes away from the studio, and I'm there. If not 7 days a week, I'm there 6 days a week, just simply to play my drums and just to jam.
Cool. Now, what's going on this album? What are the themes? What you're writing about? Because I know you all have a toe in the water when it comes to writing. You all throw your ideas in. How is the writing process? What are the themes? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, we are that band that we don't think too much about it. We don't put a pressure on ourselves on what's going on in the world, what are other bands doing. We don't care about what we did on the last album or even the last song that we wrote. We just basically step into the jam room when it's time to write a song and start jamming, crack a cold beer. And if something comes out, wonderful. If not, we're not those guys to sit there for 4 hours and pull something out of our asses just to call it a successful day. If something doesn't happen that day, we don't sweat it. We know there's always tomorrow. Again, that having the studio, it's a luxury, but, we didn't do anything but focus on what we thought, what riffs we thought were killer, and worked on the songs as much as we possibly could, knowing that, that's what Obituary fans are waiting for when they get an Obituary album is, they want it to sound like what they love.
Of course. And, you're approaching it in an old school way, aren't you? You're not sending files over the internet to each other. You are in a room together because you live quite close to each other, obviously.
Yeah, and the studio has been there for the last 5 albums with us. So,
Mm.
each time you enter the studio, every time you write a new song, every time you go to do a new album, you hope you learn from the last one. And I do think that's the case here. And yeah, we're old school. It's one on one in the studio writing the songs. We're
Good.
not laptop guys and sending files over the internet just to get a riff to somebody. It's hands on, kind of going for it in the room together. And we only know it that way.
Yeah.
Once the mixing happens, then of course the technology kicks in where we're sending files and over the internet to our engineer. And when it comes to the production of it, it goes from our studio up to Joe Sankata, who did the last 2 albums with us, and up at his studio at Full Force. He does magic on what he does with what we hand him. And we got a great chemistry right now, and we're could not be more excited about the sound of the new album.
Absolutely. Now, as you know, none of us are getting any younger, right? How do you keep up the stamina? I mean, for me as a drummer, I know what it's like, and how do you approach drums today compared to, say, years and years ago? How is it done? Because I know that Barely Alive is one of the fastest Obituary tracks to date, isn't it? I mean, and you actually said it was a misstep probably doing it, because at 200 BPM, you've got to do it night after night. I mean, how's it going? And how is that stamina?
Yeah, I don't know how or why, but I am faster now than I've ever been, and maybe that's just 40 years of being behind a drum kit. But I stay busy. In life, whether it's on tour or off tour, I'm constantly playing drums and just staying active and rehearsing. It's kind of where it is and where I am. And yes, when we were done with that song, it was exciting, but then that reality kicked in where I was like, holy crap. No, I have to pull this off night after night. And, but it's a challenge, and that does keep me fit. It keeps me young feeling, and it keeps the challenge there for me.
And is the track being played every night? You're not having a night off?
It is not at this moment.
All right. There you go.
I knew I needed a half a tour of getting back on the saddle. And, so we actually are now, rehearsing it during the sound checks.
Right.
And we have London in our sights, and that's where we're gonna reveal it and play it for the fans.
Fair enough. Won't hear it tonight then. That's a shame. Never mind. We'll move on. So, I mean, go back in time. You guys are the standard bearer for death metal. How does it feel to be a forefather of such a scene? I remember speaking to Paul from Cannibal Corpse a few years ago about this. So what's your opinion? Can you believe you're still at it decades later?
It's funny because, after the first album, and we were just kids, I didn't think about a second album or a career. It just was, I was amazed that I was sitting there holding an album that I can call my own. And then here we are 34 years later, and somehow we're still doing it and doing it well. So when you see young bands that are influenced by the style of music that you have created, I mean, what an honor, what a compliment. And just what a great feeling. Super proud of that. And I know, it's decades of commitment on our half. And then to see younger bands, carrying the torch now, that's a pretty awesome feeling.
Yeah. I mean, back in, was it 94 was probably the peak of death metal. Did you ever think that, death metal might die off? Because I know that black metal came along, and that was probably the biggest threat. How is your relationship with black metal, and what was the conversation, when you heard these bands coming out of Norway between you? Were you like, oh God, this is what's next kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're kind of lucky because we are simple guys. We don't worry too much about what other bands are doing or what the style of the scene is happening in the world.
Yeah.
And, that's probably I think that's a gift, just being just some good old boys from Florida that we know our style, we're comfortable in our skin, and we've always kind of had that attitude. And we didn't allow any outside influences or pressure really kind of get to us, and just we stuck with what we knew, which is that groove that we have. And we're proud of it, and good. It's good to see other bands branching out and doing all kind of styles of music, and we're happy to keep that caveman style, mid-tempo, super solid, not too much going on kind of songs for the fans.
That's what we want to hear. Now, what years was it, Donald? Remind me of the years when you decided to call it a day. Was it 6 years gap? Was it in the 2000s?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, then? I think it was.
What happened?
I don't know. It's funny because we've been asked that question. And I think it was like probably 1997 that we just we took a break. from not necessarily each other or even just it was never discussed. We never even had any idea it was going to be 1 year, nevertheless, like 6 years. But I think it was just, that time where we were in the industry for quite a while. It was nice to step away for a little bit. There were children being born or at least marriages happening and real life stuff. And I didn't know what I was doing. So all I knew was drums. So by the time 1999 came around, 2000 is when Andrew WK kind of hit me up, and he introduced himself in a letter written in pencil, and he just kind of said, "My name's Andrew, and Obituary is one of my favorite bands, and I love your drumming, and I would love to see if you can help me with my music." And then after that, it was balls out with him for 5 years, and probably 4,000 shows with that dude. Like, it was nonstop.
That must have been a riot, right? It seems like
it was awesome.
Is it? Was he as party as he sounds?
Yeah, and he's super focused, super intelligent, really great musician, piano player, good drummer, amazing guitar player, and he just had some killer songs and ideas. And I saw where it was going. He was getting signed to Geffen Records at the time, and I put a band around him, and it went from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour right in front of me, and it was pretty amazing that it was just a concept. A year and a half later, we're playing Saturday Night Live, and we're opening for Aerosmith, and it was pretty unbelievable.
Amazing. So what happened to Obituary then? What point was it like that died off, or you decided to move back together? What happened?
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of Andrew, I think he was the dude that actually was the one that said, because we were on Ozfest at the time, and we were playing in Fort Lauderdale, which is just 3 hours from where Obituary's home is. Yeah. And he asked me, "Do you think your brother and Trevor would want to come out and do a couple Obituary songs in the 25-minute set that I have on stage?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I can ask." And we did it, and we just realized how much fun it is to be on stage. And that was really the match that lit the candle, that lit the bonfire, and we haven't stopped, since.
Awesome. Now, going on the fashion side of things, what's your opinion of death metal being this cool, highbrow, acceptable in fashion? T-shirts being worn by certain celebrities that aren't really into the scene. It bothers me. Does it bother you?
I don't know. I don't get bothered by much. I mean, I've been around long enough to realize when something's fake, but just for fashion, then at least it's getting recognized. We could be forgotten, and I think that'd be worse. I think whatever, it's all good. It just goes to show that this death metal scene made a stink big enough for mainstream people that don't even know what the band really sounds like to be wearing their shirt. That's cool with me. It's all good.
It's an image. Okay. So show wise, you're currently in Europe, as we said, Barcelona tonight. How's the tour going, and what's the touring been like in general since the pandemic ended?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because America has had their dose of Obituary since the pandemic opened. I mean, we did 130 shows in America since it opened, and that was waiting for Europe to open the whole time. And so now that we're over here, it's just great. It's great being back in Europe. It's great knowing that the fans are able to come and see a metal show. And as for the tour, it couldn't be any better. All the bands are just super cool guys. Everyone gets along, which is really important to have fun on tour. And it was a conscious decision for Obituary to take a Trivium and Heaven Shall Burn type tour right with the new album, because we wanted to get in front of new eyeballs and hopefully gain some new friends and fans along the way.
Exactly.
And so that's what we did on this decision. And the shows have been absolutely slammed, and could not be happier with the positive reactions of the new songs that we're playing each night. So it's pretty awesome.
Amazing. And when you see a European, a tour schedule, which countries do you go, "Oh, I can't wait to go there," or "I can't wait to go there for the beer," or "Can't wait to go there for the food"? What do you look for first?
Yeah, you kind of take the country for what it is. And, there's nothing more exciting than for us to get in front of German fans. But when you get into Spain, these are people that are passionate as hell about music. And the minute you start a riff, they're chanting the riff and they're singing along. And there's nothing better than that. So it is really cool to see the Spaniard fans that are just just loving every second of every riff. And then of course, we have not been to England in a long time, and we do have the one-off show at the end of this tour that we're going to head over there and, awesome. and celebrate with our British fans. So awesome. It's just cool. All of it's just a cool experience.
Yeah, of course. Now, how do you choose a set list from so many cool tracks? You're always going to leave someone disappointed because you may not play a particular song. Does that happen within the band as well? Is it a long process of deciding? Yeah,
good question. And you can almost answer it. Anyone listening to this can answer it because the band's you're gonna select the set list with what tour you're about to jump on. So we knew we wanted some of that classic, groovy kind of mid-tempo stuff because Heaven Shall Burn and Trivium fans, they're heavy metal fans, but I don't think they might know what the Obituary logo is, but I don't think they're very familiar with it. So we weren't going to come in with just songs off the first album that we wrote as just teenagers. We wanted to make sure that we were giving them something that's going to open up their eyes a little bit and raise their eyebrows. Yeah. So, with that said, yes, you can imagine the arguments and the set list deciding between the band, ourselves, when you have 11 albums, but you're only picking 11 songs to play on a show, it's very challenging, but, a good thing is my band kind of trusts my judgment on selecting songs and knowing what we think the fans are going to like. So that's a blessing that we don't have that many arguments. It seems like we all agree on what we know is needed for that tour.
Awesome. And how do you approach touring these days compared to the early days? Do you have to be a bit more like rigid with your sleep patterns, or are you still going at it hell for leather?
Yeah, we're maniacs. There is no throttle back and put it on cruise control. You think you're going to do that before the tour starts or when you're on the airplane over here, but within one show, where someone's getting dragged to their bunk, passed out from a little too much happiness and too much partying. But
that's funny.
With that said, we do have responsibilities of being, of course, being on stage every night and giving it to the fans what they deserve. So there's time after a show to have some fun, but when it comes to showtime, thank God this band is all on the same page of just kicking ass and putting down a show that the fans are there to see.
I suppose with your position on this bill, it gives you a lot of the night to party as well. That's dangerous.
It is. And we're getting used to that, which is the scary thing. This supporting act is pretty great because you're on stage at 7:30 at night. And Lord knows those first 20 years of our career, we were the last band. And especially back in the mid 90s, that was when American bars wanted you to, play until 2 a.m. So, we had midnight, 12:30, 1 a.m. stage time sometimes. And that was just absolutely devastating to band members, having to wait that long to get up there and perform. But just 7:30 on stage and done by 8:15 is pretty all right with me.
Now, you've been out here for 34 years plus. What's the craziest thing anyone has ever said about the band over the years?
Oh, man, I don't know. Again, we have been asked 1 million questions in 1 million interviews, but, again, it's nothing crazy. We're just dudes, and we're, the one thing that we do is we have a good time. I don't know why or how, but people always see us and they just wonder why the smiles on stage and why can't I see your teeth when you're in a death metal band when you're smiling? But we are family. We're best of friends, and that makes it a good career and a good time on tour every time that we're on tour together.
Absolutely. Now, away from the music, I saw the Metal Meowlicia, should I say, article on CNN News. You care and look after a shitload of cats. It's a heartwarming story. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I wanted to learn and figure out because, 17 years ago, just a typical dude in my neighborhood and just kind of sad by just seeing how many homeless animals there were. And in Florida, it's cats that are the homeless issue. And I just got depressed enough and sad enough that I wanted to make a difference at least in my neighborhood. And so I just learned what to do. And that's a program through the Humane Society in Tampa. And it's kind of a worldwide thing where it's called Trap, Neuter, Return, where, if you know that there's a cat walking around your neighborhood getting all the females pregnant. You get a trap and you trap them. They get him fixed. They give him his vaccinations, and then you return him. Once he recovers, you return them right where you trapped them. So they still know where they are. They still get to live their lives, but they don't keep reproducing. And then, I'm just a dude with a big heart. I got close to 30 something colonies now. And, it's behind bowling alleys and movie theaters and apartment complexes and restaurants that they live their lives. They've all been fixed, spay neutered. And I simply go before I eat my dinner, and I load up my truck with fresh water and food and go make my rounds and check on everybody and feed. It's probably about 85 to 90 cats nowadays. And it's been something I've been super passionate for almost 18 years now.
I bet they're missing you while you're in Europe, right?
Yeah. And, thank God I have awesome friends, an army of people that take care of them while I'm,
I was worried about the cats
gone.
then. Yeah, I was worried about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So being from Tampa, I've got to ask you this as an American football fan myself. Who's going to be the next quarterback for the Buccaneers? Brady's gone. Are you a fan?
I was born in Miami, and so Dolphins are kind of in mine and my brother's blood.
Right.
So that would be a Trevor or a Terry question.
Right.
But honestly, nowadays I'm so busy when I'm home or on tour, you don't get to really watch much of it because you're not going to be up at the right time or be able to see the games. And so it's like sports kind of left my interest compared to just everything else in life right now. But it is what it is. It's a touring life that I do, and other things that are less important kind of get pushed to the side.
But having said that, you got a day off after the Berlin show, which is on Sunday night with the Super Bowl. Will you be watching the Super Bowl? I know it's the timing sucks, obviously, in this.
Yeah, I think it's the time. I think it's the timing that
you'll be partying on the bus. You'll still be away.
We will be, but they'll be traveling down the road, and we will not be staring at some kind of TV. On the wall, and they don't make it very easy when you're traveling, with signals on someone's cell phone or
Sure.
So
sure.
we'll somehow be paying attention to it. I just don't know how realistic it's going to be to actually watch the game play by play.
Sure. Now, what one track can I play next from the new album? Which is your favorite?
Man, I've been asked that question now that the album's been out, and honestly, you could put a dartboard on the wall and put the names of each song on there and throw a dart, and whatever it hits, I would be proud to call that a good representation of what this new album is. But with that said, everyone has now heard the first two singles, before the album came out. So, I would steer away from those only because I know the world has heard those more than others. So, I don't know. There is plenty of songs on it that I'd be proud of, but My Will to Live or Be Warned, either one of them are just classic songs.
Coming up. And finally, do you sell beard oil on your merch stand?
Not in Europe because it was not easy to get it over here, and the limited amount of items that were allowed on the tour, kind of pushed that one aside until the American tour. And we're still working on the potion because it's good, but I want it to be great before we launch it worldwide.
Awesome. Donald, thanks so much for joining me on the show. I'm looking forward to the show tonight. See you later.
Right on, Dan. Appreciate that.